Hi, are you Indian and looking to qualify as a solicitor of England and Wales through the SQE route? If so, this video is for you. My name is Ingemar Hunnings. I am the lead consultant at HCL, a management consultancy which helps businesses in the legal services sector with all the sorts of things around running their business. So compliance, case management systems, and we do a lot of work with people wanting to qualify through the SQE route as solicitors of England and Wales. So we act as external confirming solicitors of qualifying work experience. We also help people who are already qualified as lawyers cross-qualify through the SQE route as solicitors of England and Wales, particularly with regard to applications for exemption from the SQE2 exam. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and bring onto the screen this brief explanation of what is required for you to qualify as a solicitor of England and Wales through the SQE route. So there are four elements, and I'm going to run through those, then go through them in more detail, then go through what exemptions might be available. So you need to have a degree or degree equivalent. You need to have passed the SQE1 and the SQE2 exams. You need to have a minimum of 2 years full-time equivalent qualifying work experience confirmed to the SRA by an SRA regulated solicitor or a COLP. And you need to be able to prove your identity and provide your criminal records checks. Let's go through those in a little more detail. So you need to have a degree or degree equivalent. Notice you don't need to have a law degree. Indeed, you don't need to have a degree at all. You could have something else, but it needs to be equivalent to a degree. The SRA, I believe, uses a company called ENIC to check the equivalency. Now, if you're using a company to assist you with studying for the SQE, it may be that they ask you to do a converter course. If that's the case, that is their requirement. Be aware it's not a requirement of the SRA. So that's the degree or degree equivalent. Okay, the exams. The exams are the SQE1 and the SQE2. So the SQE1 exam tests your legal knowledge. It's made up of two elements, the FLK1 and the FLK2. FLK stands for functioning legal knowledge. It's tough. It's made up of multiple choice questions, and there's usually four answers to the question, more than one of which could be right. It's also tough time-wise, okay? There's quite a time constraint, so you need to be very disciplined in answering the questions within the time constraint. Of the people who sit the SQE1, roughly about 55% pass. So it's a tough exam. The SQE2 exam is testing your legal knowledge and the application of that into real life scenarios. So it is the SRA having a look at you as if you were a newly qualified solicitor to see if they think you're a safe pair of hands, should they license you to practice. So the SQE2 is made up of 16 questions, 12 are written, 4 are oral. Now the written questions of the SQE2 and the SQE1 exams all can be sat, would be sat through the Pearson View Centres. And these Pearson View Centres are in the UK plus also around the world. So it is possible for you to sit the written parts possibly within India. I think there are a number of different exam locations in India, so you may not have to travel to the UK. At the time of recording this video, which is April 2026, you still have to travel to the UK for the 4 oral questions. So you need to sit those in London, Manchester or Cardiff. Obviously, by the time you get to sit them, things might have changed, but that's the current situation. Now, of the people who sit the SQE2 exam, about 77% pass, which might seem as though it's easier. But actually remember that it's a filtered group. Only those people who've sat and passed the SQE1 or been exempted from it can apply to sit the SQE2 exam. Okay, qualifying work experience. So you need to have a minimum of 2 years full-time equivalent qualifying work experience confirmed to the SRA by an SRA regulated solicitor. So what is full-time? The SRA says that full-time is at least 32 hours a week. Notice they say full-time equivalent. So they're trying to be flexible here. So it allows people to work part-time over a longer period in order to get the minimum 2 years full-time equivalent. Also, it could be that only part of their job, part of their work is qualifying work experience. So what is qualifying work experience? Well, it is defined as the provision of legal services. And the SRA has gone on to say that it does not have to be done in England and Wales. It does not have to be done in a law firm. It does not have to be done in English and Welsh law. It could be voluntary, volunteer work. You can reach back in time as far as you want for your QWE. Also, you can use an external confirming solicitor to confirm your qualifying work experience. So that's a service that we provide. Now, as far as not being doing the work in a law firm, it could be that you're working in-house in a company or in a charity or part of the government. So long as it is the provision of legal services, then it could be QWE. Whether it is down to the decision of the confirming solicitor, who has to be comfortable that they could justify their decision to their regulator, the SRA. So you can't have it confirmed by someone who's regulated by someone else, like the New York bar or even the English bar. That wouldn't be any good. It's got to be regulated by the SRA. I'm going to bring up on screen a page from our website. You can see here that we provide this service acting as external confirming solicitors. Now, this is something that we provided since before the SQE came in, so from the summer of 2020. I believe that we got the first 2 QWE confirmations. We have by this time confirmed the QWE of over 190 people from all over the world, including people from India. Now, when I am on the SRA website doing a confirmation as an external solicitor, the SRA asks me to confirm more than, say, if you were working in my law firm. They asked me to confirm that I have reviewed your work, which means seen your work, and that I have got feedback from your supervisor. Now, your supervisor doesn't have to be a lawyer. They just have to have supervised your work. Reviewing of your work I do via a Zoom call with you showing me your work from your screen. So I don't want the work sent to me. It stays on your computer. We're also fine if your company wants you to redact what you're showing me to hide confidential information. We're fine to sign a non-disclosure agreement, again, so long as it's in English. Again, what I'm seeing needs to be in English, or at least an English translation. Right, so there's information on here about that. We usually offer a free, no obligation Zoom to check whether it's appropriate for us to be acting and to explain what the process is. If you're interested in exploring this further, please fill in the form on the screen here. It's on every page of our website, or email me. Please don't ring me because you're more likely than not going to fail to get through, because I'll be in a meeting and I won't have an audit trail of who's rung. So far better if you can fill in the form or email me. Okay, right, let's go back to here. We've now talked about the qualifying work experience and how that can be confirmed. Obviously, if you have an SRA regulated solicitor in your organization, please use them. That's going to be far easier. We stand there to help those people who don't. All right, proving your identity. The SRA uses a company called Atlantic Data to do that. We do have a small service to help if you don't have a solicitor to do that. There you go. Give us a shout if you need some help. Criminal records checks. Yeah, you need to go and get those from wherever you are so you can submit the proof the SRA requires with regard to that. Exemptions. Let's talk about those. You cannot be exempted from the requirement for a degree or degree equivalent. You cannot be exempted from your requirement to prove your identity and provide your criminal records. There are options for exemptions from the exams and the QWE, so I'll talk about those in some more detail. The SQE1 exam. Now, the only way you're going to be able to, in reality, get exemption from that is if you happen to have sat the old LPC exam, the old route to qualify as a solicitor. You can, because we're still in the transition period, trade that in for an exemption from the SQE1. Okay? So you submit proof of passing the LPC and then they'll grant you an exemption from the SQE1. Only those people who are qualified as lawyers can apply for exemption from the SQE2. If you are not qualified as a lawyer, you cannot get exemption from the QWE. You have to get that confirmed. If you are qualified as a lawyer and you happen to have passed the LPC, you've got some options. You could choose to trade in your LPC pass for an SQE1 exemption. The SRA will then require you to sit and pass the SQE2 because they won't grant you exemption from both exams, and they will also require you to have to get your QWE confirmed. If you're a qualified lawyer and you have an LPC pass, or you don't have an LPC pass, whichever way, you're not going to apply for an exemption from the SQE1, but instead, as a qualified lawyer, you choose to apply for exemption from the SQE2, then you will automatically be exempted from the QWE requirement. Okay, so you cannot apply for an exemption from the SQE2 even if you're a foreign qualified lawyer if you have sat it and failed it, because your failure is proof of your need to sit it and pass it. So you may want to listen over that last little bit again to determine the options that are available. I'm now going to move over to explaining how an Indian qualified lawyer can apply for exemption from the SQE2. Here is the page from the SRA website, which explains what options are available to you. So if you're qualified as an Indian advocate, you do not have a pre-agreed exemption, but you can apply for make an individual application for an SQE2 exemption. To do this, of course, you need to fill in their form and pay their fee, which currently is £265. Now then, there are some wrinkles in this. So you need to provide evidence that you passed the All India Bar exam. And you need to have evidence of your professional qualification with your local bar. And the most obvious and most easiest one is the admissions certificate. Okay, so right. Now then, that's what they've said. If you qualified before 2010, which is not going to be many of you, then you need to provide evidence of your professional qualification, like an admissions certificate. Okay, but if it's after, let's say 2010 onwards, then it's going to be this that I've just gone through. Either way, you also need to prove that you have at least 2 years legal work experience post-qualification as an Indian advocate. So you decide, and you're the best person to determine when you qualified as an Indian advocate. I've had a couple of people ask me that. I've got to turn it back to them because I'm not an expert in the Indian qualification system. You're likely to know more about that than me. Please do not mix up the definition of legal work experience with qualified work experience. They're different things. Okay. So you need to submit a letter of reference showing you have at least 2 years legal work experience post-qualification. So it doesn't the legal work experience doesn't have to have been done in India. It could be in another jurisdiction, but it does, and it doesn't have to be done, as I understand things, as an Indian advocate, but it has to be at least to the level of that qualification. So if you had qualified and then gone to England and worked as a paralegal, that wouldn't be good enough. You need to be showing that you have worked at least to the level of an qualified Indian advocate, or maybe you were employed because of your qualification as an Indian advocate. So the letter of reference would need to be, well, you'll probably draft it, but it would need to be signed by someone who directly supervised your work. Okay, and you will need to explain what the arrangements were for that supervision. Who can sign that? Well, it could be someone who's qualified as a lawyer. If that's the case, you will need to also submit proof of their qualification, like their admission certificate, a copy of that. If they're not a qualified lawyer, it could be someone who is a qualified professional, like an accountant, in which case you would need to submit proof of their qualification, like an admission certificate or whatever other proof they can give you. Plus, in the letter of reference, you would need to explain how they were suitable to supervise your legal work. If your supervisor was someone who was not a solicitor or qualified as a professional, you can still use them, but you will have to, you obviously can't submit proof of their qualification because they haven't got one, but you would still need to explain in the letter of reference how they were suitable to supervise your work. Okay, so there are other technical things that need to be included in the letter of reference. So we do have a service helping people with the application. Okay, here it is on our website. So we give guidance in here. There's also where you can download the form. Our service, we charge a nominal figure of £250 plus VAT if you're in the UK. We provide you with a simple template letter. We'll review what you draft, advise you on what needs to be improved, added, or what have you to that. We'll also review your completed application form and remind you what you need to submit in together with that in support of your application. So that's there to help you with that. If you would like us to help you, then please fill in the form and give us a shout with regard to that. What I'm going to do next is actually go to the form to run through it so you can see how you fill that in and what it looks like. So here is the form, the application form to the SRA. You would fill in section 1, who you are, section 2, where you're qualified. Section 2.2 here, I believe your qualification entitles you to say yes to all of the practice areas. Your qualification gives you all of these practice areas. You would fill in section 3, your ethics, section 4B, not 4A, because you don't have an agreed exemption. It's 4B with the name of the organization where you've got your post-qualification legal work experience. Okay, and then the SQE2 exemption, you would tick that. Let me just check something. Yeah, okay. Right, then you would not need to fill in sections 5 and 6. Okay, you go straight to section 7, and it is 7B that you fill in. All of the required post-qualification or legal work experiences post-qualification. My 2 years legal work experience was completed post-qualification. So you put in the name and the contact details of your referee or referees. So if your 2 years was made up from more than one position, then you would need to do letters of reference for each of those periods. Putting the information in. The form is not very forgiving for putting in more data than you know, just one person or one organization. You'll just have to do your best with squashing it in there or submitting supplementary sheets with that. You do not need to fill in section 8 of the form. Okay, so if you have questions or you want us to help, then please, as I said, get in touch through the form or emailing me. Please do remember to Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There are lots of videos on here to help people. It's hopefully a useful resource. The pink thumbnails are to do with the SQE, QWE, and exemptions. So yeah, please let others know. It may be of help to them. So I hope that's of help to you, so I wish you all the best, and please get in touch if you feel that we can help. Cheerio.